Hello and welcome back to the Go for Two podcast. I'm Liam, your host, and we're here for another preview. We've got, 4 to go, I think, and we're on to the AFC North today. Joining me, as he always does, it's the King of Philadelphia, the man with more hats than JD Sports, is, of course, Mr. Muggs NFL. Patrick, mate, how are you doing on this fine Thursday for our record?
Oh, good. I've gone West Coast today, San Diego Padres baseball. So I thought I'd throw a curveball in. It's got absolutely nothing to do with the AFC North. But, it's just sometimes that's how I roll. So it's good.
Do you own an AFC North hat, is the question?
I mean, I don't own any. I have a Baltimore Orioles hat that could have been could have been worn for this, but that was showing a little bit of bias, I guess. So.
You want to be fair to the listeners in case there's any...
Exactly, yeah.
There's a lot of Steelers UK fans kicking around, so we want to be fair to those guys. But like I mentioned, AFC North today, and then next episode we'll go on to the NFC North, two of the arguably the best divisions, to be honest, in football. We're not going to go over any news because, like Patrick said before we press record, kind of camp news is replaced day by day. We'll probably have a bit of a roundup when we get into our preseason predictions of any big news and stuff. I did see Odell Beckham tweet that he's not retired and wants to come back, which gets me excited, and he's one of my favorite players of all time. But we'll see where that leads. And I'm sure this will be the most listened to podcast this week. I don't think there's going to be any other podcasts in the world, are there, that's going to have more listeners than this? I don't know if you can think of any famous pods this week.
No, I'm going to tell you now, I won't be listening to any others that's certainly with any brothers on there, so I can tell you that for
now. Patrick's dedicated to this pod only. And the Chiefs documentary is out today, but I haven't watched it yet, so I'll give my review. Patrick,
how is it? I didn't realise it was today, because have you seen that the Cowboys have got one as well coming out? I believe that next week.
Yeah, that's on Netflix, isn't it, that one?
Yeah,
I think the Chiefs one's out now, or the first 2 episodes are, and the rest are out today. So yeah, I'm sure you can just skip to episode 6 and just enjoy the ride, or maybe episode 5. Maybe they'll do the.
Yeah, I want to see the build up.
Exactly. Yeah, before I'm crying. But cool. Let's talk about non-Chiefs teams, AFC North. As always, we're going to do the same format. So we're going to go in the order they finished in, go through key additions, coaching changes, win total, strength of schedule, and then we're going to go for a reason or reasons to believe in that team, and then reason or reasons not to believe in that team. And we will start with our division champions, which is the Baltimore Ravens. Interesting off-season for them again, because like every year they're adding little bits and pieces, but not many huge deals. So they've added DeAndre Hopkins, Chidobe Awuzie, who actually played for the Bengals, and Joseph Noteboom were the main free agents added this year. In the draft, they added Malachi Starks, really good edge player that we loved in round 1. Edge Mike Green, very controversial pick in round 2, and then backup offensive tackle Emory Jones in round 3. As is always with the Ravens, very little coaching changes. It's the same core staff as always. There seems to only be changes when one of their DCs or OCs get hired away for a head coach job. Their win total is high. It's 11.5, joint highest in the NFL. And their strength of schedule is 21st in the NFL. All these teams have a hard schedule, as you'd imagine, because they all play each other twice. So there's a couple of hard games in this division. We'll go into reasons to believe in them and to not believe them. But when I looked at this, mate, I was thinking, I thought they did a little bit more in the offseason than what they've done. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying they haven't got better, because they're normally good at drafting players. But when I was doing the prep, I was thinking, I thought they added a bit more than they actually did. Did that jump out to you at all with some of the other AFC teams kind of signing a lot of players this offseason?
Yeah, a little bit, especially on offense. I know the offense I'm sure is going to be humming again, but the depth, I thought they'd have added to the depth, to be honest with you, on offense. But it's funny when you don't kind of look at these rosters and you look kind of 4 months down the line for when you're doing this, and you're like, you change your perspective sometimes, doesn't it? When you have a little look and the narrative that you've had in your own head over the summer can kind of change just like that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I was a little bit like that with this team. Obviously, they've still got a lot of great players. Let's start with positive reasons. Obviously, you normally like this team and like the quarterback. So what are your reasons to believe in them? Kick us off. Like, why do you think the Ravens could be a Super Bowl team this year?
Well, I mean, I put on my note in capitals, have we ever heard of a guy called Lamar Jackson, 2-time MVP? But I'm going to go the secondary, to be honest. I think it's really got a lot of talent on defense, just a really versatile secondary. I think that's what I kind of love about them. Obviously, Ravens always a pretty solid defense. I think Starks, I absolutely loved that pick, to be honest with you. One of those picks that I was kind of eyeing up for the Eagles as he was kind of getting into the late 20s. I was thinking maybe there's a chance, but great pickup for Baltimore. Just think there's so much talent on defense. I think we can talk about the offense in a minute. There's obviously a credible amount of talent. Lamar and Derrick Henry together proved to be a smash hit last year. But for me, the steps is kind of getting stops in the playoff on defense. You do that even more in that. I feel like the AFC is the more passing conference with, obviously, we know that the better quarterbacks live over there. So kind of beefing that up for me is solid pass rush as well. For me, so important for Baltimore going forward.
Yeah, 100%. You're right. It's funny because this is such a run-heavy team, but the AFC is almost a pass-first win sort of offense conference compared to the NFC. So yeah, I had some similar notes to you, to be honest. But I did want to add one other thing. So coaching staff was on my list. Quite important, especially in this division. You know, we'll talk about some teams in a minute, but head coach is excellent, makes the right decisions on fourth down, very aggressive, trusts his quarterback. OC Todd Monken's extremely good. Looks like he could be a future potential head coach again in the NFL, like he was. I think he was the head coach when Jameis threw 30 interceptions and 30
30 for 30
touchdowns that year. Yeah. And then Orr as well, the DC who's come back. Like, it feels like to me that's a really good unit that, yeah, maybe they're not as deep as we'd like. I would say they're quite an old team in areas. But I feel like with the experience, the quarterback and the coaching staff, I feel like they're just not going to lose many stupid games. I know Lamar was normally as that one game where it's a few fumblings is kind of issue. But apart from that, it feels like with this coaching staff, you're going to have to play really well to beat the Ravens. And I think that just bodes well in terms of regular season record, right? You don't want to be going away to Buffalo, away to the Chiefs in the playoffs. It just feels like this could be another year where they have a lot of wins in the regular season and set themselves up for a good playoff kind of home game to start it off.
Yeah, absolutely. I went back the other day and watched the Buffalo game in the playoffs, and I just felt like they threw that game away. I feel overall that Baltimore are a better team than Buffalo. I still think that for this season coming, but that game was more lost by Baltimore than it was won by Buffalo. It was just, you go back, it's actually quite shocking. I think there'd be a lot of regret from Baltimore for that. Because I think then the Chiefs game obviously would have been the next week, wouldn't it? And that could have been a different story for Kansas City. But just that feels like, not that you need a motivation when you're a top elite team in the NFL, but a massive missed opportunity like that feels like it's going to drive this offense forward. I think we're going to see some good numbers this year.
Yeah, me too. I think that's the key for me. The defense is always good. It feels like they get defensive linemen out of anywhere. But for me, looking at the overall picture of the roster, I think Derrick Henry on offense makes a big difference, as we all know. Zay Flowers, someone that I loved in the draft, probably hasn't been quite as good as we'd hoped. Bateman was a bit of a bust. Now he looks like he's a really good player. They got the two tight ends. I know Isaiah Likely's broke his foot, but they said that'd be like 6 to 8 weeks, I think, that he's out. For me, I think it is the offense talent. I think DeAndre Hopkins is now your wide receiver 3. He did fine with the Chiefs. He was just injured. So if he's healthier this year, I think he'll be a good player, like the backup running back. Like for me, the offensive talent, like you said, should put up a lot of points. And I think that might be important for them this year. And the defense has definitely got stars. Defensively, they're always incredibly good. They started last year pretty bad. They ended up being the second best defense behind the Eagles at the end of the season last year. If you look at the metrics, on paper, if you look at player by player, they're not as good as other teams. But I think me and you both feel like the defense is going to be great. What is the thing that gives you the most confidence in that unit?
Yeah, apart from the secondary, what I already spoke about. Obviously, I still believe in the linebacker in the NFL and how sideline to sideline they still make a big difference. I think Roquan Smith, I think he's one of the best trades that you could have for one of the least kind of valued position, right, in terms of kind of what you give away for a draft pick or whatever. I think that trade was a home run. It slowed down a little bit in the first half of last season. I think that's why A lot of things there. I love that. Obviously, you got Van Noy in there as well, Trent Simpson. But I just love the ferocity that I think the front seven brings. It should be. I'd like to see them kind of hit it from the start this year, because until you kind of said it, then you forgot that we were talking for the first 8 weeks like the Ravens. How can they get anywhere with this? The worst defense in the NFL, right? It was absolutely abysmal. So I'd like to see that front seven kind of perform much better and not just at the back end of the season.
Yeah, Daffy Oweh is definitely a player I'm interested to see how he gets on this season. Cool. Yeah, we love the coaching staff. Obviously, offense should be great. Lamar's probably getting better every year. Defense has got some stars. What's the reason not to believe in them again for this team? Obviously, again, we keep reiterating this. We're comparing the reason not to believe in them for how good the team should be, and this team should win a Super Bowl or be in an AFC title game. Reasons not to believe in them for you, what would you say is the main one that jumps out to you?
Easy. And there's not one person, I don't think, in the UK that loves Lamar, putting aside Ravens fans, than me. I absolutely love Lamar. Loved him at Louisville, everything. I think it's very fair to ask that in January, in the cold, the inconsistencies in the passing game lands to me on Lamar Jackson. And that would be my reason to not believe until I've seen it with my own eyes, to be honest. Because I love Lamar. I think he's got better. The passing game the last 3 years has gone from kind of bottom 5 in the NFL to, he's in everyone's top tier now, and he's a definitely top 3 guy, or you want to go 4 with Burrow in there. But it's just, for me, the inconsistencies in January. And I think it's fair for people that don't like Lamar as well to be kind of bringing this up and questioning it, because this feels like a Super Bowl team. It really, really does when you kind of look at the offensive line, when they added in Derrick Henry and just how seamless that was with the defense. I think it's okay that this is actually one of the biggest questions in the NFL. Like, can he actually do it in late January? Is, I think, just a pivotal question that he needs to answer it, right? It feels like, obviously, football's a team game and quarterback winning's not a quarterback stat and everything. Feels like it for me in this situation.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think we're not being ESPN hot takey. I have heard
exactly. I think it's fair.
Yeah, even with the QB tiers the Athletic have done recently and stuff, I heard people say, he played well last year in the playoffs. And I think, at times in the Bills game, he did play well, but I think he had 2 fumbles, right? And then they were down double digits and they had to go for 2 at the end to try and tie. And obviously it was a drop pass. But, fumbles are included in the game. That's why I keep saying, yes, he threw some good passes after that. But if, like Mahomes did in the Super Bowl, pick 6, okay, the game wasn't his fault, but that pick 6 was a huge moment. And that went from 10 to 17 points, whatever it was. So I feel like it is fair to mention that and criticize him for some of his playoff woes, I would say. For me, I think defensive line on paper, you could say, but they feel like they get it right every year. Michael Pierce is retired, incredible run stopper. They're in a division where people are going to run the ball down the Ravens' throat. Can they stop the run? They tend to get it right every year, so I have some faith in that. For me, the only other thing I mentioned was the offensive line. We were worried about it last year. First game against the Chiefs, the pressure rate was mental. I think Lamar got sacked like 4 or 5 times. As the season went on, the offensive line was actually really good. And it was probably one of the most surprising units to me in the NFL. Stanley's obviously got a big deal. Voorhees' second year after the ACL. They've got a great center. So I think left tackle, center are really good, even though the left tackle's injury prone. But left guard, right tackle, which is Rosengarten at right tackle, Falele at right guard, and then Voorhees at left guard. I'm not sure how good they are. They played well last year, some of those players, but they had Patrick Macari take a lot of snaps last year. He's left. I just think that could be a unit where it turns them from the best offense in the NFL to the 7th. And that might be the difference between like 1st seed and 4th seed, for example.
Yeah, so, I think that's fair in a game where Lamar's dropping back, right, 30, 35 times. When you're doing that, I think that when they're controlling the run game, I think the offensive line is great. But like you say, if you're going to drop back a lot with Lamar in those games, there is still holes and question marks, isn't there?
Yeah, well, they're a big unit physically, so they are really good at stopping the run. But sometimes in past games, not as good. But that'll be the way. That'll be the way for them. Get in front of it in terms of the get in front of the sticks. 2nd and 4 every time. They're not going to have to worry about pass blocking if they're in 2nd and 4 every snap. So we'll see. Anything else that comes to mind for reasons not to believe, or are those just the only two that came to you?
For me, that's all really that sticks out when you watch the play last season when they were on. It's as good as anybody. So for me, it's this is your year, right? They're not even. Oh no, sorry, no, they made an AFC title game in the last 5 years. I actually can't remember.
No, Lamar hasn't.
No, that's what I thought. I was just like, this is your time now I think to kind of prove it.
Yeah, I agree. We don't normally talk about this unit, but special teams, first year of a new kicker in a long time for reasons, we won't go into, that everyone probably knows about. They're normally a great kicking unit. Last year, their return, they gave up a 3rd most EPA on returns, and now they got a new kicker. We don't like to talk about it, but come January, those special teams moments can be 7 points, 6 points. So thought I'd just quickly end on that note. Win total then, before we move on to our next team. Like I said, 11.5. It's a big number. Strength of schedule is not too bad for a division winner, 21st. Where would you lean for the over 11.5?
I'm going over. The schedule, by the way, is an absolutely disgusting to begin with. If all the start on, by the way, I need to get this off my chest. Ravens at Bills, week 1. No, I'm not into that. There's enough big games already that you can save that for later on in the season for me. Because they got Bills, Lions, and Chiefs in the first 4 weeks. Yeah, I think Cleveland is sandwiched in between that, and they're probably going to get whacked in week 2. But yeah, tough schedule to start. I hate that Bills game. It shouldn't be week 1, to be honest.
It's a good week 1 game.
But I'm going over. Good football team.
Yeah, I really struggle with this. I don't know why. You just need those random unders where, like 2 years ago, where they didn't win as many games as everyone thought. So I've been struggling a little bit with this one, but I did lean over as well. But I don't think, tell me if you disagree, I don't think they're going to be a 14-15 win juggernaut 1 seed. I think if they're the 1 seed, it's like all the teams at the top have got 11 or 12 wins and they've got the tiebreakers with 12. I don't know. Do you disagree with that? I just don't see them as 14-15 wins personally.
Probably not, no, with how hard the schedule is at the start, because like I just said, they got those teams the first 4 weeks. They follow that up with Houston and then the Rams as well. Incredibly tough start. If you're 6-0, yeah, you're going to win 15 games because you're going to blow the rest of the schedule away. But the chances of that, no. I think 12 is fair. I don't know the Bills' schedule kind of off by heart, and I know the Chiefs, so it's could be close, to be honest, without knowing the Bills. But 12 wins feels kind of fair. You want the 1 seed in the AFC, though.
Yeah, Bills have got the 5th easiest schedule, unfortunately, for that reason. Yeah, Chiefs 27th, Ravens 21st. So we'll see. But yeah, I'll go over as well. Same as you. On to the team that finished 2nd in the division. Feels like this happens every year we do the pod. I think I'm about to say a different team, and it's always normally this team. The Pittsburgh Steelers are our team in 2nd from last year. They added quite a lot in the offseason. So Aaron Rodgers, QB, a player we've spoken about probably too much actually since we've been doing the pod. There's been a lot of Aaron Rodgers drama since we've been doing this. They traded for DK Metcalf and Jalen Ramsey, which is 2 big additions. Safety Juan Thornhill is going to start for them, coming over from the Browns, and in the draft they had Derek Harmon, defensive tackle, really good player. Caleb Johnson, running back, mini Derek Henry, as someone told me the other day. I'm not sure if he's quite that good, but we'll see. And then edge Jack Sawyer, who was really good about 18 months ago and then fell down draft boards as the season went on. Similar to the Ravens, the staff is very similar. It's Arthur Smith's 2nd year as OC. Then win total was 8.5, which is a funny place for them to put it with Mike Tomlin's record. And their strength of schedule is 24th. Obviously, they have to play the Ravens and the Bengals twice. And the AFC North has got a hard out-of-division schedule, like Patrick just mentioned. So it's a tough one for them. I won't ask you, is Mike Tomlin going to keep up his record, because that will spoil the win total section. This is a hard team, I think, mate, for me anyway, to look at what to do. I think the offensive line was better last year than everyone thought. And then they've lost their left tackle this year. He's gone to the Titans. They got a brand new quarterback playing in a brand new system. They've added DK Metcalf, who maybe is an upgrade to George Pickens, maybe isn't. They've added a running back that probably is an upgrade to Najee Harris. And then the defense is still really good, but they're all older. So I found this quite a hard team to get my head around. But let's go for positives first. What's your reasons to believe in them? What kind of jumped off the page for you?
I think the biggest reason to believe in Pittsburgh is the consistency in rolling out a top 8 defense every year that you can hang your hat on, especially in the trenches. Maybe we'll talk about the secondary later, but for me, front 7 is where the Steelers hang their hat. And if they have a level change that is negative, then I don't think this team's going to be very good, is what would my spoiler would be. So for me, you're hanging your hat on consistency in the coaching, defensive trenches, and just they seem to be able to win really, really tough games with different quarterbacks in the last car. I mean, Kenny Pickett won some games as well for Pittsburgh, not just like kind of last season. They had Ross and Fields won some games. I'd expect that this year as well, but the defense cannot ever take a step back with this iteration of the offense.
Yeah, agreed. The defensive line's quite old as well in places. Obviously, Cam Hayward wants a new deal. TJ Watt just got a new deal. Extremely good player, but both older. TJ Watt's had some few injuries in his time. Derek Harmon, really good. We both loved him in the draft. So it feels like that unit needs to be top 3 or 4 D-line in the NFL, or else this defense could have problems, I think, potentially. But I agree with you. The defensive line is a good unit. Obviously, the head coach is a good unit. They find ways to win tough games. Now, they're not perfect, but I think the weapons overall, even though I love George Pickens, I think the weapons overall are better. I like Pickens. I like I like DK Metcalf. I like Johnny Smith, I should have mentioned, as part of the trade. I still like Fryermuth. I like Caleb Johnson. I like Warren, the backup running back. I know the wide receiver 2 is not great, but Roman Wilson, spoke about him quite highly with Lee in the draft shows coming out the draft, and he got injured all year, basically, last year. So for me, I think defensive line's really good. Head coach is really strong in terms of a leader. And I think the weapons are good. They're not great, but I think they're good. I think there'll be an offense where they target or utilize their top 3 or 4 weapons a lot. I don't think there'll be a lot of work for the 5th and 6th guys. I think it'll just funnel through those guys. So, yeah, I think they're the key standouts to me, is those positions and those players.
Yeah, I love the Jonnu Smith addition. I think it goes without saying. I mean, we might see 3 tight ends on the field because they absolutely love Darnell Washington, don't they?
Yeah,
He was an absolute menace against the Eagles last season. I don't know if you remember him pushing Slay nearly out of the stadium. He was all on the Steelers now. But, yeah, it'd be interesting. I think it's going to be a really heavy run, bludgeon-based offense, right, where then you try and get DK Metcalf involved. Really straight out. The fit for me, he even doesn't look right in the jersey, to be honest with you. And that matters absolutely nothing. Saw him in a Steelers jersey. I was like, just doesn't look right. And then you got Aaron Rodgers there with him. The fit for that feels really odd, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it does. He does look funny in the jersey. I forgot Darius Slay in my notes. Actually, it's a good shout that he'll start at cornerback for them. And again, another older player to go with Jalen Ramsey. They're both older corners. This is probably a nice segue to reasons not to believe in them and to believe in them for me. Aaron Rodgers. So they won 9 games? I think it was 9 games last year. Yep. I personally do think Aaron Rodgers at the moment is better than Russell Wilson. I'm not a big fan of Russ, as everyone knows. Probably would prefer Fields, but he's better. So in terms of they won 9 games with that last year, could they win 10 games? Is he better? I think he is better on the field. But the reason not to believe in them is also probably Aaron Rodgers in terms of off the field. He doesn't on paper gel at all with Arthur Smith's offense in terms of turning his back, play action, bombs down the field, middle of the field, tight ends. He's very much kind of RPO, short pass, go balls to wide receivers, which DK will flourish with. But it just doesn't on paper fit what Arthur Smith does. And he's not, as we know in life, Aaron Rodgers isn't the most flexible of individuals, should we say, in his views and his opinions. So I think that's a weird fit, even though I think he is better than Russell Wilson. I think the fit's weird, and he is 41, I think. So there's a big risk of injury, and you've got Mason Rudolph as your backup. So for me, I think the quarterback position, even though it's got better on paper, I think Aaron Rodgers brings other issues that I'm not sure how that will lead the offense overall.
You led in to the Steelers by saying they had a brand new quarterback. And I mean, I never cut you off when you're talking, but the last thing Aaron Rodgers is brand new. I don't buy anything into like training camp, and I don't take that content as like kind of read sort of thing. But what I honestly think, like Rodgers could turn up, and I am as athletic right now with the same age as Aaron Rodgers, who does not look athletic anymore. He's 41 though. I think we get blinded by what Brady kind of did, because we forget like people like Peyton Manning. I mean, he couldn't move when he was in his late 30s, but it's just, I don't think that this is going to go well, to be honest with you. I know what you're saying about Russ, because Russ has obviously fallen off a cliff in his play in the last 3 years, but I think I'd much rather have Justin Fields and kind of know what my offense would look like with Fields than I would with a 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers, whose time with the Jets, it was a disaster, weren't it? With an awful, horrific injury, and then his play coming off the injury last season, where he looked super old, which is a shame because he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's one of the best throwers of the ball that we'll ever see. So, but I don't think this is going to end well, to be honest with you. I really don't. I don't like the mesh with Metcalf at all. I don't know. He's a divisive character sometimes in his kind of behaviour, DK Metcalf, and so it's just run heavy based offense. I think they'll keep some games close and win like that. I think if you're expecting anything else from Rodgers, then for me, it's not going to go well.
What do you think about the Rodgers-Tomlin relationship? Is that going to go well?
That's going to be so interesting, isn't it? Because Mike Tomlin, obviously, maybe Rodgers will have more of that respect for a Mike Tomlin, because he has that respect throughout the league, doesn't he?
Does.
So I know Rodgers is kind of like a forthright guy, but Mike Tomlin feels like someone that does command that respect. So you could see an even keel kind of relationship wise.
Yeah, we'll see. He's an interesting individual. It'd be quite cool to see a good year from Aaron Rodgers in his last year, but
I totally agree with that. I think if he was good, I think it would be good for the NFL and the division, especially.
Yeah, just is he good? We'll find out. We'll find out. Any other reason not to believe in them? I just had the age of their players. Like, I know they've got a couple of young offensive linemen, but for me, they've got key players all over the defense and obviously the quarterback. They're all old in terms of NFL. Don't worry, you're not old, Patrick, but they're old in terms of NFL. And two of them in particular injury prone. Like Ramsey had a lot of injuries. TJ Watt's actually had quite a few recently. Darius Slay hasn't, but he's old as well. And then Cam Hayward is old. Highsmith's not young. So for me, I think it's just the age of their defense is risky. If they're all fit and they play 15 games, they could win 9 or 10 games just on the defense. But I just can't guarantee they're going to play enough games personally.
No, it worries you when you kind of see on paper you got Slay and Jalen Ramsey both down as kind of starting corners in the NFL in the same team. That does worry me a little bit. But Slay, he held up his part of the bargain, to be fair, in the playoffs for the Eagles. So it was easy. I think he's 34, 35 now, but he's held up that. Whether he can hold up another full season with kind of an older secondary around him, I'm not sure. But that does worry me. The total team worries me slightly, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And they've also got to play their own division twice, so some hard games there. Under over then. Just checking again. 8.5. I'll go first on this one. I have gone under. The record has to go at some point, and I have gone under. Partly for the reasons we just mentioned, partly for other teams in this division, partly for the teams they're playing in the AFC that I'm quite high on. So I think they'll get some wins. I'm going to go under. I don't think they're going to have a disastrous season. It just wouldn't surprise me if Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback of when Mike Tomlin loses that 500 record, and it's a bit of another weird end to Rodgers' career. So yeah, I'm going to go under, not miles under, but I think they're a 7 or 8 win team.
Yeah, I'm going under as well. I think, like you, not going to be a disaster. I think there's enough talent there to get them through some games. It's a nice start. I mean, Rodgers going at the Jets first week, by the way, is a little nice wrinkle. I mean, they go Jets, Seahawks, Patriots first 3 weeks. It's okay before a trip to Dublin and then coming back to play the Browns at home. It's a nice start, to be honest with you. You could have a winning record after 5 weeks, and maybe we're sweating on our unders, but nah, I'm going with you. It's an under for me.
Could be 4-0. We're here in week 5 doing our thing we did 3 years ago.
They will be heavily supported in Dublin, by the way, Pittsburgh. I have read that there's a massive contingent coming over from Pittsburgh for that.
I think they're big in the local area there as well, because they've got their preseason games are free on Irish Virgin TV, and they've got their own they all do their own YouTube shows. Virgin TV in Ireland's also got rights to that to air that for free. So I think they've got a lot of local fans as well. So you're right. I think it'll be like 80% Steelers in that game. I can't remember who they're playing. Is it the Vikings or
Vikings? Yeah, it's a good game. Yeah. Good game.
That is a good game. Yeah, and when they're 4-0, we'll be talking about how we were wrong about Tomlin and
exactly.
how they'll get knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. Anyway, but we'll see. Next team then, one of my favorite teams to talk about in the NFL, the Cincinnati Bengals, with my guy Joe Burrow, who I annoyingly enjoyed watching on quarterback on Netflix. They re-signed a lot of their players. Again, this is another team compared to its AFC rivals that haven't added loads, but obviously re-signed T. Higgins and Jamar Chase to big deals. They re-signed BJ Hill. They signed TJ Slayton from the Packers to play defensive tackle. They re-signed Samaje Perine to play third down running back, and they signed Oren Burks, I think, from the Eagles, actually, as a backup linebacker there. In the draft, they added Shamar Stewart in round 1. He's officially signed his contract as well now. And Demetrius Knight Jr. will be a starting linebacker for them, who they drafted in round 2. And Trey Hendrickson is also practicing now, a player that, in theory, we shouldn't have to talk about, but there's a chance. Will he suit up? Will he not suit up? Who knows? But he's still there for now. Coaching staff, they had one of the bigger changes in the offseason. They fired Lou Anarumo. They went for DC Al Golden. I think he was Notre Dame's DC. Kind of experienced guy, runs a very different defense to Lou. Very good at coaching young players, which is definitely the route they want to go down. And I think he used to be the linebackers coach for the Bengals years ago, so he knows Zach Taylor already. They also added Sean Desai, which is quite interesting, who also from the Fangio scheme used to be the DC of I think it was DC, wasn't it? Sean Desai of the Eagles. Yeah, he runs the Fangio scheme, which is very different to Lou Anarumo as well. So they're trying to get different voices on the defensive side of the ball. Their win total is 9.5, and their strength of schedule is 17th. So basically bang in the middle of the league. Obviously, it's going to be difficult when you have to play the Ravens, Steelers twice. But their out of division schedule isn't as bad as the other teams. Now, last year they had the second easiest schedule and didn't make the playoffs, but this year still in a good position there with 17th. Reasons to believe in them then, mate. I think one of the reasons is fairly obvious. So I don't mind taking the easy home run is the offense. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins all back. Chase Brown, quite liked him down the stretch last year. Orlando Brown Jr., left tackle, good enough, better than they've had in the past. Amarius Mims is a really good player, played well down the stretch. I loved him coming out. They're the key parts of the offense. They've also got Noah Fant and Gesicki at tight end as well. The offense in the AFC should be one of the best. Like if they're not top 5 in the AFC, something's gone wrong. It'll be elite. I think that is still the reason to believe in them. And I think for me, they were unlucky relatively last year with health across the board. That's a bit random. So this year, if they're healthier, the offense plays really well. Joe Burrow plays well, they'll score a lot of points and they'll probably beat a lot of the teams that can't score 35 points in a game. So I think that's the reason to believe in them for me is the offense is the first one.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like you said, it's a home run, isn't it? But the elite talent is as good as what anyone's got, right? And I'm not sure if you mentioned him, wide receiver Yoshivas. I really like him. I think he had a great season last year. I think Mike Gesicki, by the way, if you picked him up late in fantasy football last year, he was a scored a lot of touchdowns in the red zone. But I've gone for, aside of obviously the incredible offensive talent that you've got, you're making steady improvements along the offensive line. They obviously they've added 2 new starters, Patrick Lucas and Dylan Fairchild, this year. I mean, neither as a Bengals fans, you have not enjoyed watching the Bengals. Well, you have enjoyed them not making the playoffs, but kind of the rivalry with Kansas City that they've had. Burrow has been getting killed now for as long as we've been doing this podcast. Even when they made the Super Bowl in our first season, he was kind of getting killed, weren't he? So feel like they're making steady improvements along the offensive line, where now your excuses are kind of running back out, and you'd expect to 2 seasons of not making the playoffs, you'd expect a high seed, right, from Cincinnati. We're not expecting a sneak in the back door. I think the expectations is when you've got that level of talent is AFC title, Super Bowl, right? So it's just the improvements on the offensive line is steady, but should really help the team if it all stays healthy.
Yeah, I should have mentioned Fairchild actually, because it does seem like he's going to start. That should make a big difference. Left guard, right guard has been a nightmare for them since we've been doing the pod, and it feels like, I know Marius Mims has some injury issues last year, but they've sorted tackle out. Like, it's good. It's not great, but it's good. And like the Ravens and the Chiefs would love 2 good tackles every year. You know, both those teams end up changing right or left tackles every season. So the Bengals are in a good position from that. So I think that's a good shout from you, because you're right. Since we've been doing the pod, Joe Burrow's been either sacked 5 times or running for his life every game. And he is injury prone, right? So you don't want to keep getting him hit. He is relatively injury prone for a quarterback. So you want to try and eliminate those hits. The only other one for me is, again, it's a bit of a stab in the dark, right? We both love Lou. Al Golden's good working with young players. The defense has had a lot of first, second, and third round draft picks on it for the last 3 seasons. They've got rid of some of the veterans that Lou Anarumo really liked over the last couple of years. We'll talk about the defense more in a second, I'm sure. But there's a slight glimmer of hope that, you know, Lou Anarumo's scheme was very complicated. Players took a while to learn it. They obviously weren't good last year, even though he's a good DC. The defense was terrible. In theory, on paper, there's a chance that by changing the DC to a more simple scheme, they can give up less explosive plays and the young players can get better. Even if that means they're the 22nd defense, that's progress, because last year they were the worst defense. So I think there's a glimmer of hope, even though I know we'll talk about the defense in the second section. I think the DC could make a slight improvement just by being someone different.
Yeah, I mean, I think that leads into perfectly right reasons not to believe.
Yes, it does.
It does. My reason to not believe is, can you stop anybody that is above average in the NFL? Because until we've seen it, we're going off kind of what you're saying. We're theorizing, aren't we, of the new scheme under Golden is nobody, not even a depth piece has been added to the secondary, which for me is slightly worrying if I was a Bengals fan, to be honest with you, rolling out the exact same guys. Not even one depth. Again, they've got a couple of undrafted rookies. I'm not sure if they're going to make the roster or not, but it's just rolling out the exact same secondary and depth feels slight red flag to me.
Yeah.
And just up front as well, by the way, I know they had the contract issue with Jamal Stewart, but you see yesterday he bumped into Burrow at the training camp on one of the drills, and that started a massive fight. And I just think, I don't know, man, is he? I hope he can kind of get all this past him, because he actually. Have you seen the video?
I haven't seen the video, but he is known for being a bit of a
exactly. And I was just like, is that the pick that you needed? You needed a defensive pick, but is that the guy that you kind of needed? Putting all the contract stuff aside, I was like, why would you ever do that in training camp? I think like 12-year-olds know that the quarterback is the most important guy. You don't do that, right? It's just something to watch.
I haven't even seen this video, by the way.
Yeah, it was all over.
Well, they play an actual game, as in like 7-on-7, or was it more of a
7-on-7? Yeah, offense, defense, and then he looks like he's going full speed. I know that, and he beats his guy.
Go on, then. I'm live watching this video right now to see this fight.
After the coaches I mean, you don't often get the coaches talking about it either after.
Oh, yeah, he does. You can quite clearly see him bumping into him, can't you?
Yeah, and it's just like, there's no point to it. There's absolutely zero to gain from doing that, and it's just another little thing to keep an eye on with Stewart, isn't it?
Yeah, I saw Ted Karras there's a comment from him being like, it says basically like, be smarter than that kid, or else is basically what his thing says, which is quite funny. Look, they have got Trey Henderson back because they didn't have him. We'll see what happens between now and then, because there's been no progress again. It just feels like the Bengals and Cowboys just shoot themselves in the foot every week with these bloody contract negotiations. But if he plays, the line should still get pressure. If he does sit out, even if it's for 3 games or 1-2 games, they're gonna have to score 38 points to win those games, because I think he's had more sacks than anyone over the last 2 years. He's sack leader last year. Like, he's an important player for them. But yeah, you are right in general on the defense. You mentioned the secondary. I was going to mention the defensive tackle room. Obviously, they re-signed BJ Hill, which was a must. TJ Slayton was okay at the Packers, but they're putting a lot on his shoulders. It feels like the defensive tackle unit and the corner unit could be quite bad this year. It feels like they need some in-house progression, or else they're going to really, really struggle. Going back to what you said, a player like Will Johnson spoke about, before on the last pod. Could he have been their starting corner instead of Shamar Stewart? It's it's kind of ifs and buts, isn't it? And what ifs, but I just feel like there's a riskier pick there. But his ceiling's super high, and if they can get it out of him, and they've got Henriksen on one side, him on the other, they'll probably hurt a lot of teams just by those two guys. But if Shamar Stewart just stays on this trajectory, it's not going to be great for him. And also, the other question we need to ask ourselves is Tanner McKee the greatest NFL quarterback in the world, or has the Bengals got the worst defense ever? Because didn't he go something like 20 for 25, 250 yards? He had 120 yards against their stars. I know they didn't have Henriksen playing, but I think the Eagles killed him, didn't they, in that preseason game?
He looked like he was wearing slippers as well. It was very easy out there for him. I'm not sure whether the Eagles have got the best backup in the NFL, or this defense is still as bad as it was there. So it's just maybe New Orleans can give Philadelphia a little call, by the way, for a quarterback. But
I have seen it. Do you know who Sheil Kapadia is? Big Eagles fan.
Course, yeah.
On his pod, he said he wouldn't accept a second-round draft pick for Tanner McKee. That's how good he is and how much he means to the Eagles. And I'm like, come on. We've got to be accepting a second-round pick.
Serious now. Just the profit on that is unbelievable. So it's...
Are you going to come back from Philly week 1 with a Tanner McKee white Eagles jersey? Is that on the cards or not?
I've tried to ban myself, considering that me and you are going to New York 10 days after I come back. I've tried to ban myself from buying anything expensive. So maybe like a Tanner McKee trading card that you can get from the shop or something like that would be more better than a jersey.
Well, I know someone that can get you a Tanner McKee mug on the cheap if you need me. So yeah, we'll go from there. Cool. Bengals then, win total 9.5. I have gone over.
Yeah.
Am I reverse jinxing them? Who knows? But I've gone over. I think the offense will be good. I don't think they're going to win 13, 14, 15 games. I just think the defense is terrible. And I think there's a chance that they could win 9 games, but I'm going to go over. And if they win 9, they could miss the playoffs again, which is a disaster for Zach Taylor. It's a big year, by the way. We haven't spoke about him. Big year for Zach Taylor. But I am going to go over, and I think they'll probably get 10 or 11 wins.
Yeah, I see. Wrote a little note about Zach Taylor to remind to say it. Year 7 for Zach Taylor, by the way. I think I've had him first coach out for a couple of years when we're doing this podcast. He fortunate that the franchise got Joe Burrow and then got Jamar Chase, to be honest with you. They went to the Super Bowl. Following year, they went to the AFC Championship game. I don't think he's a top-tier coach. I don't think he's anywhere near that. So you go under, and the only benefit would be that Zach Taylor would finally, surely be out. But I'm going over as well. I like the schedule. I like the look of the schedule. I like the look of the start, to be honest with you. I mean, we're going Browns, Jags, Vikings. For me, that's okay to begin with. I know you got the Jags winning the Super Bowl, but for me, it feels like a nice game in week 2, to be honest with you. But yeah, I'm going over. I don't see him as a juggernaut, but you get into the playoffs and you can put points. Of course, you can beat anyone.
Just wait for that week 2 review pod when Trevor Lawrence is the best quarterback on the field, and I'm a happy man on that day. But yeah, I think they could cause some damage in the playoffs, definitely if they get in. Cool. Last but definitely least in this division, the Cleveland Browns. We've got 14 minutes left on our record to hit an hour. We normally give teams more than 14 minutes. I'm not sure this team will need more than 14 minutes. In terms of off-season additions, they've tried to sort their cap out. They've tried to sort their cash spending out with the Deshaun Watson trade, obviously. So they did add a couple of players. So Tevin Jenkins is going to probably start for them at guard. Malik Collins as well, defensive tackle, played quite well last year. They took a flyer on Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, who was drafted by the Bucs. Never quite did it there, but kind of did flash a little bit on the third down. And then quarterbacks galore. Joe Flacco re-signed. Kenny Pickett traded for, I can't remember what you got for Kenny Pickett, but Harry Roseman probably got too much. Dylan Gabriel also added in the 3rd round of the draft. Shador Sanders, quarterback, added in the 5th round of the draft. And they also added Mason Graham, who we liked. Schwessinger, who's my favorite linebacker in last year's class. Quinton Judkins, who's another player with off-the-field issues. They drafted him in the 2nd round. And then Dylan Sampson, who's the current starting running back, in the 4th round. So there's a hell of a lot of players there that they've added. They've got a new offensive coordinator, Tommy Rees, ex-quarterback's been promoted, but Stefanski will probably still call the plays. Their win total is 5.5, which I think is the lowest since we've been doing these previews so far. And their strength of schedule, though, bearing in mind they finished last in the division. Normally last place teams get an easy schedule. They've got the 31st schedule in the NFL, the 2nd hardest. Which, if you pull up the teams, it is a really tough schedule. So that's the Browns, mate. We do another weird season for them. Feels like since we've been doing the pod, they've been a weird team, actually, because that's when we started. They were kind of all in. If you remember, they had poor average quarterback, but spent loads of money everywhere else. Then in that 3rd year, they did the massive trade that, I probably spent too long talking about how much I hated it. And now they're back in this weird tanking position, but also they've paid Myles Garrett the biggest contract. They've got Denzel Ward, who's going to be one of the highest paid corners in the league. It feels like, again, after 5 years of the pod, they're all over the place as a franchise.
Yeah, is this one where we start with the negative first before we try to find some positives? Let's go for it, because, like you just said, the dysfunction is mad. But I've just written down on my notes, they've got 1 million quarterbacks, but at the same time, they've got 0 quarterbacks. They don't have a single one that you would be happy to roll out to in the NFL as a starter. I actually think the reason they bought Flacco back is because 2 seasons ago, he was okay late on in the season, and they got in the playoffs, right? I mean, they got whacked by Houston, if you remember.
He was terrible in that game.
Yeah, he was absolutely terrible, and that felt like it should have been it for his career. But 2 seasons later, here we are. But I honestly think, I listened to a podcast the other day, and they were like saying, what is even the over-under for starting quarterbacks for the Browns this season? I don't know. I feel like they could have... I mean, Tyler Huntley, who you didn't mention, by the way, is also knocking around on the roster now. It's just, they got 5 guys. Maybe they might even have 5 starters at some point.
I was going to say, what would you guess? Answer your own question almost. How many players are going to play? A minimum, would you say?
4. I think 4. I think Shador, I think Gabriel, Pickett, and Flacco.
Flacco will definitely play, yeah.
Flacco is definitely going to play, and it's not going to look good, is it, at all? Because it's just... It scares me. And then you've obviously picked up Gabriel, who you liked in the 3rd round, whether anybody else kind of agreed with that. Then to go back and go for Shador in the 5th round, which is obviously, I feel a little bit for him, to be honest with you, Shador, but the kind of the circus and the baggage that comes with it. He got a Nike advert, by the way, after a pre-season game. He got a Nike advert. That, for me, feels like, I saw someone saying, setting him up for failure. And I thought, well, if you're on an NFL field, you're not being set up for failure. That is setting someone up for failure. A Nike advert after a pre-season game is ridiculous, right? He's got an oblique injury, so he's not going to get crushed by Philadelphia this week. Luckily for him, but it's just.
Well, this is the funny thing, right? They got all these quarterbacks, and he had to play basically the whole preseason game because they had no quarterbacks.
Yeah,
that's what he's rested. Pickett had a hamstring injury. Gabriel had a hamstring injury. Shador actually had a sore elbow and still played. And Tyler Huntley played like 8 snaps. And now Shador's injured. Gabriel's going to play with a hamstring strain, which seems problematic against the Eagles. So yeah, they're all over the place.
Sean's going to be on the sideline still. I'm sure they'll roll him out.
I think they've told him to stay away. I was listening to a pod where he's not going to the facility. He's working out at home.
Is that easy?
I think that's the rumors of like it's just and they'll release him in the summer, and that'll be the end of it. I did hear. Obviously, I'm not going to give him any props because the owner clearly made the trade and he knew he was trading for an awful person. But in the media the other day, don't know if you heard this. He said, "Oh yeah, look, we tanked. We got the roster to a really good level. We didn't have a quarterback. We took the big swing." And then he paused and went, "And we missed quite severely on the big swing. And now we're resetting again." And he basically gave Stefanski and Andrew Berry, I think the GM.
Yeah,
they've got two more seasons again. By the way, Stefanski, the man who wins Coach of the Year every bloody year, it feels like, and never has a great offense. They've got another 2 years. And I did hear that from the owner and thought, okay, well, at least you're aware of where you're at, but it doesn't change the fact you're in a awful situation.
You need to stop letting Jimmy Haslam, the owner, stop picking quarterbacks. He's only ever picked 2. One was Deshaun, and the other was Johnny Manziel, which obviously went down the pan, didn't it? So his evaluation maybe not the kind of best there.
He likes a party with his QBs. That's about it. Speaking of Shador, not to berate on the topic too much, but you don't obviously follow a lot of preseason stuff, so I don't know if you listen to anything. Have you seen the kind of rigmarole around this start of like, oh my god, he looked amazing, and then anyone who watches film was like, he looked like average at best. It was like a couple of good throws. Has this made the way to your timeline, or because you don't watch preseason, you just ignore it? And
no. When Shador's different, and it seems like the biggest 5th round pick we've ever had, so you can't really avoid that. Even I don't listen to as many pods as you that goes kind of in depth into the film rooms or whatever, but just even those kind of pods have picked it up and saying, kind of, what are we doing here? I mean, average at best would be being kind, wouldn't it?
Yeah, probably good for a 5th round pick.
Yeah, exactly.
But obviously, he's not really a 5th round pick. He's like a 2nd round pick that got pushed to the 5th because no one wanted to deal with the circus. And I know this isn't a AFC South pod, but at the same time, I did find it hilarious that the Anthony Richardson videos, it felt like everyone, I don't know if you watched this, but the blitz they didn't pick up. It feels like every film guy who's been bored since the Super Bowl, they just all got on their iPads and were like, right, I'm doing a 10-minute breakdown on Anthony Richardson, and they all came back 3 days later and did, right, I'm doing a 10-minute breakdown on why Shador wasn't very good. I did find those 2 QBs the talk of preseason so far. Any other reasons not to believe in them? For me, I did have the offensive line. They were amazing, a lot of these players on paper 3 years ago, but they're quite old now and quite injury prone. Yeah. I'd be a bit worried with Dylan Gabriel's height and size. Shador's worst trait is running out the back of the pocket and trying to race people when he's not fast. Joe Flacco's 40, whatever he is. I think the offensive line, even on paper, there's names you like. I'm a bit worried their age as well will actually make the quarterback situation worse a little bit.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think in run blocking, that's still going to be okay. I still like Jerome Ford as kind of like a running back to obviously Dylan Sampson now is going to be doing the heavy lifting with whatever's going to happen with kind of Judkins in it. But yeah, I don't feel in a good situation in Cleveland, to be honest with you, because I've just given you my positive, and that's what the run game should be, pretty solid. And pretty solid is probably not going to win you many games in the AFC North, is it?
No. It was funny because when you started that sentence and you were like, "Yeah, Jerome Ford's quite good." I'm like, "What are we talking about compared to the other teams
Yeah,
in the division?" It's an absolute nightmare for this situation. That Dylan Sampson or Jerome Ford will start. But yeah, they need to run the ball loads and be good on the ground. But really, the best thing for them to do is lose. They've got the Jags' first-round pick from the Hunter trade. They've got their own first-round pick for the first time in ages again. They've got second, a third, a fourth, another fourth. This is the year for them to tank and just, it's not going to be Arch Manning, but Nussmeier or Sellers or whoever Jimmy Haslam wants to go and have a party with.
No, not Jimmy. Don't let him loose.
Do we need to do reasons to believe in them? I've got one. I put the defensive line should be good. Myles Garrett, I can understand why he took the deal. I would have forced a trade if I was him to try and actually do something, but can't turn down that level of money. For me, yeah, defensive line should be quite good. And that was kind of all I had.
Yeah, mine for obviously, like you just said, the win total is the lowest that we've done so far. Mine would be they added so much young talent in the draft that I'd love to see them actually hit a couple of home runs on it, especially on defense. You can get those guys, obviously, Graham and Schweissinger, you get those to a good level in the first year. The defense should be pretty good, right? And then make games difficult for teams. And then you can kind of hang your hat on that going into next season with, hopefully for them, one QB that you know who's going to be the starter, right? And then, so that for me, obviously you still got Craig Newsome alongside kind of Denzel Ward's there. So, you know, for me, they've got great pieces still on defense. It's just hit a home run with a couple of guys on, a couple of rookies on defense, and you're looking solid going forward.
Yeah, it's like the Jets last year, where on paper the defense is really good, but eventually it could just get worn down by the fact it has to do all the heavy lifting, but it will still be good. It will still be good, yeah. Schwessinger, I love Schwessinger in the draft. He's a really good linebacker. I think JOK is actually injured for this year, but for next year, him and JOK together, that's going to be a really good linebacker call. I don't want to go to stay too negative, but if Mason Graham isn't good and Travis Hunter's electric on both sides of the ball, though, that's going to be another kick in the teeth for them. But I don't want. Yeah, Browns fans have already turned off anyway. But that's where we're at. Harold Fannin Jr. by the way, getting a lot of love in camp. It'd be quite cool if he's a good player because yeah, whether it's Shador, whether it's Gabriel, whether it's Flacco, definitely they're going to throw to the tight ends a lot in this offense. So yeah, they might have a good player there at tight end. Win total 5.5. Then we've spoken all that way. Obviously hard schedule. You go first. Have you gone over or under?
It's going to have to be under, I'm afraid, because of the schedule. I know you read out it was 31st, but it's absolutely horrible.
It's mental when you read it out.
The start is disgusting with Cincinnati, Baltimore, Green Bay, Detroit. That's horrible, to be honest with you. That's where I don't know who you're rolling out at QB weeks 1 to 4, but yeah, we'll see. The guy that you want to get rid of maybe is the one that you're going to roll out the earliest, perhaps, but not sure.
Yeah, Tanner McKee, get on that phone. Get on that phone, Jimmy. He's ready to go.
We'll have the Jags won. That'd be nice.
That's going to be 32nd, though, obviously, with Trevor Lawrence winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So there we go. Cool. That's all our teams then. So let's do our last questions, which is division order and how many playoff teams. Both of us have clearly gone with the Browns in 4th. So we don't need to worry about who's going to be in 4th. I think we both are going for the same team in 3rd with our under-overs. So you've gone for the Steelers, same as me?
Of course, 3rd? Yeah. Pittsburgh in 3rd, yeah.
Cool. So then division winners, we've both gone... I know we've gone... Yeah, both gone over for the Ravens and the Bengals. So in theory, it could be either. I went first last week. So why don't you go first? Who have you got winning the division and why?
It's got to be Baltimore. More solid all-round team, much better defense than Cincinnati. I have Lamar on the same level as a Joe Burrow overall as a quarterback. I think we could be seeing an MVP trifecta from Lamar maybe this season. Maybe he should have got it last year. A lot of people think so. For me, give me Baltimore. Better coached, better defense.
First time we've had this year, anyway, the 4 teams in the same order have gone the same: Ravens, Bengals, Steelers, Browns. Because can't get the Ravens out of that division win. I think if the Bengals had like a Browns level defense, I would be a bit like, oh, like really interesting. But I think it's just too weak. Where I think the Ravens, if the offense is playing rubbish, can still win a game 20-17. I think the Bengals are going to have to score a lot of points every week. So yeah, I've gone the same as you for that one. Playoff teams then. I've gone for 2 playoff teams.
You've not got much to play with in terms of capital.
We've only got one AFC division left, the East. So yeah, I've gone for 2 playoff teams, which means I've got Jags, Texans, Chiefs. I think I only did one last week though. Chiefs, Ravens, Bengals.
Yeah.
So I think I've actually got 2 teams to play with for the East, which is a maybe an awkward decision that I've made there, but there we go. What about you? Are you going 2 or are you going for 1?
I'm going for 2. I think this is the year Cincinnati get back in and probably, got Baltimore winning the division, probably have to go on the road. And that's a tough team to come into your house with Burrow, Chase, Higgins. That's a tough game. They got to the Super Bowl from winning 10 games 4 years ago. So, I think it could be done again. It wouldn't shock me if Cincinnati got to the Super Bowl, to be honest. But yeah, let's start by making the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know if you've worked this out. That means we both have to have 2 East teams in the playoffs next week.
Yeah, they do.
So
they do. And I'm going to give you, if you want a spoiler, it ain't going to be the Miami Dolphins. So
I can concur. It's not going to be them either. Cool. That was a fun episode. Talk about some very, very different teams there. Next time we're here, it's going to be the NFC North, which is even harder, to be honest. It could be 4 good teams. Potentially in that division. We'll be recording that one tomorrow and it will come out early next week. And then next week we'll get into our Easts and we'll end, of course, with our Super Bowl champion, AFC East. We should have waited and got you to do that from the airport on the way to Philly.
Could have been, I've got a big gap. I'm flying from Dublin, so I've got a bit of a timeline wait there.
Should have done a live pod from the Aviva. Patrick just stood there talking about the Eagles. But there we go. Remember to go follow us as well at Go42Pod on Twitter/X, and then follow Patrick as well at Mugs NFL. And you are actually Mugs NFL again. If anyone that doesn't know, you're doing Mugs as well as all your normal gear. And from what you said, there's been a good reception, right? So far, I think people buying stock.
Yeah, after 2 years, I thought let's bring it back. I'm going to America twice, mate. It just doesn't go on trees, does it? All these pizza slices in New York and whatnot. So it's just happy to do Cooper DeJean. That was my first custom order. I had to do that. It wasn't the first ordered, but I did it first. Bias.
I hate Cooper DeJean for obvious reasons. So there we go. What's been the most popular order? What's been the biggest, most common one? Or have they all been different?
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Hamilton was ordered a few times, and then some of his own family came in and ordered some, which was very nice. But yeah, as you can imagine, the good teams. But what I like doing about the mugs is people order different players. When you're buying a hoodie or whatever, I feel like you need someone nailed on. Yeah, if you're going to wear it, right? But in a mug, you're happy to go for like the backup corner that you're rooted.
I saw a cool tweet when someone asked for the creamsicle Bucks one. I don't know if you've done that one yet, but that's a cool concept. That's a good
it's going to be a Baker Mayfield. He wasn't feeling too brave.
Speaking there, whilst we're on the AFC North, have you seen the Steelers throwback stripy jersey they're going to wear?
That is horrid. That is honestly, Aaron Rodgers is going to look awful in that jersey. It's just a DK Metcalf. The Seahawks jerseys are actually super cool. So it's just I don't know, mate. It's going to be ugly. This division feels uglier than normal.
It does. If anyone does order that style mug, you're gonna have to decline the order and move on to the next. But there we go. Cool. That's it. Like I said, we've rattled on for long enough today for the AFC North. We'll be back next time for the NFC North. Have a good weekend, everyone, and we will speak to you soon.
Yeah, speak to you soon.